Ladies and gentlemen, it's lightning round. It is time to get the sunglasses on. It is time to take a trip into the lightning house. It's Kevin Tompkins. It's Britt Flinn. It's Andrew Cooper. Thank you to Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network. Britt, Coop, how we doing?
Britt, how do you not have sunglasses yet at this point?
It's only been like 17 weeks.
You know, I like to expose my retinas to copious amounts of lightning and lighting.
Oh, I like that, dude. Are we messing the lightning up by using all these?
I mean, you're just shielding yourself from all the greatness. Just let it permeate your retinas.
Actually, when I put the fourth pair on, I could not see you guys, so I think you're actually right.
Get my sip of hustle juice in here, but we are ready. The draft guide from Fantasy Alarm, the living draft guide, is out right now. We're going to be adding to that throughout the coming days and weeks leading up to the NFL season. I am excited. There's going to be a lot of content coming down the pike. I know I've got a lot of running back content. The Zero RB manifesto, if you will be out in the next week or so. Same with late round running backs, which is kind of dovetails in there. But what are you guys working on as far as the draft guide goes? What have you already got out, Coop and Britt?
Well, here's the thing. Like some other sites, what they'll do is they'll create, and this is how it used to be back when I was a kid. It was like you had to buy a magazine, right? And you had to decide, do you get one now or do you wait until later? Do you print yours now? Like, will it be obsolete in a couple of weeks? We throw that all out the window. What we do is we come out with the draft guide now, which has all the early stuff. It has the rankings. It has everything that you need for your early drafts. And it's got articles trickling out all the time, but it's not just one print. We update it all the time. So I go in, something happens. I update my rankings. I update my articles. You're getting everything from now until August. So there's no reason not to go buy it now. You're just getting access to everything earlier than everybody else. So get in there. I'm working on a ton of stuff. I couldn't even go through it all right now. But Britt, what do you got?
Yeah, so my anchor running back strategy article drops tomorrow, which I'm super stoked about. Did a ton of research and spreadsheeting so that you guys don't have to, because I know how much you guys love all that stuff. So that'll drop tomorrow. And I've also got the off-season injury report, because we know how these players like to get injured when they're working out on their own before minicamp, and we don't really know about it. So we need to start keeping track of that as well.
I don't know what Russell Wilson's doing, but yeah, that looks like something you could get injured doing. Did you see him? He was doing like the sliding across the floor in his socks, whatever. Yeah, like, dude, I don't know, man. That looks like a risky business.
That looked like something out of
literally
ESPN2 fitness show at like 7:30 in the morning.
Well, he's not flying anywhere yet, so he can't do the aisle lunges. So he's got to do something different.
Fair enough. All right. Well, what are we doing today, Kev?
We're gonna get in some sleepers, the tried and tested fantasy football trope, if you will. But you know what? There's a lot of late round gems out there if you're looking at wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. So we're gonna dive in to some of our favorites to help maybe the skeleton key of unlocking your fantasy football success this season. So you know what? I'm gonna toss this over to Britt. Britt, who do you want to talk about first as far as one of your favorite sleepers for 2023?
So one of mine is Josh Downs. And I know that there's a certain other Colts wide receiver that you're going to talk about later, but I'm pinning my hat on Josh Downs. And here's why. So Paris Campbell left the Colts in the offseason. He's now with the Giants. Last year, he ranked first in the league in slot snaps and 8th in routes run. Josh Downs is now going to be filling in this slot role. He's already built a rapport with Anthony Richardson, and Shane Steichen loves to utilize those shifty, speedy slot receivers to kind of open up the field down the lane. Josh Downs is also great at separation and spacing. I think he graded third best in single coverage. He was open on 34% of his open routes, which ranked 8th. And then he earned a top grade against zone and ranked 6th in separation. Like, Josh Downs may be undersized, but he is that dude. And he's going to fit in so well with this offense. And right now in Underdog, he's going like his wide receiver 83. Like, there's no cost associated with him whatsoever. And he has huge upside.
Yeah, Kev, I'll go third on this one because I know I think, Kev, you should get into this player and also get into your next take, and I'll go after that because I think there's a discussion to be had here.
Yeah, I do like Josh Downs. I will fully admit that. And this is all really cost adjusted because when you're looking at these wide receivers, especially for the Colts outside of Michael Pittman, they're pretty much free. My one of my favorite sleepers, I'll just go into mine, is Alec Pierce. When you're looking at both Downs and Pierce, I mean, Pierce wasn't super efficient last year, only a 1.2 yards per route run, and it's something that you can throw on the quarterbacks because we're talking about Sam Ellinger, and just in the demise of Matt Ryan, so to speak. You can maybe pin some of that on those, but the fact that Pierce still, I mean, for a rookie season, he still got 80 targets. Now they drafted Anthony Richardson. You're hoping that he lifts the boats in that offense. Maybe he doesn't do it right away from, as far as a volume standpoint. But Alec Pierce, we know, can run, can get down the field, has a higher ADOT. If this offense can score more touchdowns through the air, it can't all be Michael Pittman. It's going to have to be one of Alec Pierce. It's going to have to be one of Josh Downs. I'm drafting both of those guys, especially on like underdog. And when we get into, certainly season long drafts, Pierce is going to be going before Downs, but Downs is going to be a guy that maybe I take with the last round pick. I definitely think there's, an argument to be had for drafting a Colts wide receiver, especially late in almost every draft. So, Coop, I know you're chomping at the bit here.
Yes. Now, first off, I want to say what up to Better Boss, Felix, Scamber. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us today. On this one, I've done a lot of thinking, guys. So here's how I'm handling it. First of all, in best ball, if you're playing that, you kind of have to pick one or the other. You're not going to really pick them both for the most part. And in that, I'm kind of drafting whichever one I can get at value. In my real leagues, here's what I'm doing. Last year with this team, the reason that Paris Campbell was better than Alec Pierce was that he was the guy that would stay on the field for two wide receiver sets. He would play in the slot, and then when they went to two wide and brought in the extra tight ends, he would move out wide. Alec Pierce would come out of the game. That's what gave him the advantage. With these guys, what my game plan is, as long as this ADP holds, is I'm going to be drafting Alec Pierce and Josh Downs at ADP 213 in a normal league. He's not getting drafted. That's like in your 10-team league, that's around 20. In a 12-team league, what's that, 16, 17? So he's going to be on waivers. So I'm throwing him right on the watch list. I'm grabbing Alec Pierce, I'm putting him on the bench, and week one, we wait and see who gets the full-time role, who comes out of the game. And if it's Josh Downs, boom, swap him right away as fast as you can with as much fab as you can, get it done. Unless Jelani Woods, of course, emerges as a super monster and he becomes a second target on the team. But we have the luxury with some of these teams to do that, where if you draft just Josh Downs, someone else will draft Alec Pierce because of the ADP. So my opinion is that we should use uncertainty to our advantage and hopefully let Downs slip through the crack and grab him. Because as Felix Sharp says, and as Brandon Huffman said when we talked to him, Josh Downs is a freak athlete. He's an absolute footballer stud. It's just a matter of, does he immediately become a full-time player, or does he start out as a 50, 60, 70% slot guy? So that's how I'm handling it. What do you guys think about that? Good compromise?
Yeah, I think that sounds great because Anthony Richardson does have a cannon for an arm. So if Alec Pierce is the guy who does stay in there, I mean, he's going to benefit from those downfield throws like way more than he benefited last year with Ellinger and Matt Ryan. I also want to watch Josh Downs' knee injury because they've been kind of hushed on that. If it's more severe, then I'm more towards Pierce. But man, I just love Josh Downs.
Right. Well, here's the thing: if we get to August, and because you know how it happens during camp, sometimes there's smoke, Britt. And Josh Downs now all of a sudden is getting drafted ahead of Alec Pierce. Guess what? I'll draft Josh Downs and I'll put Alec Pierce on the watch list. We have that luxury in this range. So for my wide receiver sleeper, I might as well get into it right now. I'm looking at a very similar situation. We're looking for ambiguous situations where we throw these dart throws, right? And the one that I like best right now is in Houston. And here's why. D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick are bringing over that offense from San Francisco, right? It's the same offense that went over to Miami with Mike McDaniel. What that offense does is it uses a fullback. Kyle Juszczyk plays like 50, 60% of the snaps. He is crushing snap-wise. And same with Alec Ingold in Miami. What that does is it makes the third wide receiver obsolete, really highly consolidates the targets among the top two wide receivers. So Houston now brings these guys in They immediately signed Andrew Beck to a big deal. They already have Troy Hairston. I keep calling him Joey Hairston. This is the first time I've actually not called him Joey Hairston. I keep calling him Joey Hairston.
Baseball pod
the
now.
baseball player, yeah, from like, I can't stop doing it. But I just finally said Troy Hairston. Hopefully I won't do that anymore. But they're in a position where we don't necessarily know who the top 2 wide receivers are going to be. We know Schultz is hopefully going to be in the Kittle role, and then you're going to have 2 of Nico Collins. I mean, they might rotate them too, but ideally 2 of Nico Collins, Robert Woods, John Mechie, and Tank Dell are going to be full-time players. I've always liked Nico Collins, but in this case, give me John Mechie. Give me the unknown, shiny upside of a guy that we loved in college. He just got sick, right? If he's healthy now and he's back to being John Mechie, he could be a superstar right away. So that's the guy I like taking stabs on. Wide receiver 77, ADP 174. So once again, we're talking late round best ball or last pick in a real redraft league. Are you guys in on Mechie? And like I said, there's opportunity for 2 guys. So who else do you like besides Mechie?
I love Mechie. I think that also that unfortunate situation of him getting sick allowed that ACL to heal a little bit more, and he got to rehab it more than he would have in a normal situation. So hopefully he's 100% back from that. But I really like Tank Dell. I know that he's another undersized guy, but the fact that he and CJ Stroud formed a bond at the combine and that CJ Stroud actively lobbied the Texans front office to draft this guy, really, I mean, that's a lot of smoke for me. I think he's going to get targeted often, early, and be incorporated a lot more than people think for a small receiver like that.
Just wish he was a little bigger,
Me too.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Kev, what do you think?
The nickname Tank is like, it's like you name a poodle Spike or name it like.
It's like, there's always like a cartoon bad guy named Tiny, right?
Yeah, right.
That's like exactly what Tank does. He's the opposite.
That was probably like Bluto's like original name before they made it,
right,
from Popeye. But yeah, I mean, these prices aren't exactly prohibitive to drafting any of these guys. Like when Nico Collins, who we're talking up, is a wide receiver 62 and underdog. I don't know. Robert Woods is 87. Tank Dell's 89 and Mechie 77. So you can have your pick of the litter. I would rather go for the mystery box option of drafting a John Mechie or a Tank Dell versus, it's like the devil versus the devil you don't. Robert Woods is on the backside of his career, clearly. I'd certainly rather take the shot on a John Mechie, who, obviously we know about the situation last year. Coming back, he's going to play his first NFL snaps, hopefully here in 2023. So I'm down taking the mystery box option of John Mechie. Hopefully CJ Stroud can at least be better than Davis Mills. It's not the lowest bar to clear, the highest bar to clear in the world, but definitely down for taking stabs on the Houston wide receivers, because it has to be somebody. Like, it's not going to be like 5 guys have 55 targets. And
although I will say this,
the world.
I used to play that game often, and I would end up with like Greg Little from the Browns.
Yeah. The doors are off here.
Every once in a while, it doesn't have to be somebody, but hypothetically, we think that it could be somebody there. And again, with Tank Dell, like I look at the ADPs, Nico Collins goes 135, John Mechie 174. You have to draft Nico Collins if you want him at pick 135, right? What is that round like 11 in a 12-team league? So you're going to need to draft him. John Mechie at 174, maybe not, but like Tank Dell at 208. So I did this last year with the Jaguars. There were a few leagues, like I was drafting Ingram in most of them, but the leagues I didn't, I would take like Marvin Jones. I had drafted Marvin Jones and dropped him pretty quickly for Zay Jones because Marvin Jones get drafted ahead of Zay. You got to think about. No, act like you're right. No, if it turns out you're wrong, right? So Tank Dell is an easy one. Robert Woods. I mean, if Robert Woods is a guy, then I'm not sure how excited I could possibly be. Right? Great blocker, yeah. So that's the thing with Better Boss. It could be Nico Collins, because Nico Collins is obviously a different player than all of them. He's a true split end, right? He's a big boy. He'll get his snaps for sure, but being the split end doesn't necessarily mean you play a full snap share. But yeah, that's why Nico goes first, because he's that pure outside guy, the big boy.
Do we worry about him getting hurt? Like,
I mean, you worry about everybody getting hurt.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying with him specifically. Like, he hasn't played a full season yet. Is he higher on your injury radar than some other people?
So to me, it's not prohibitive. That's the real question. Like, if a guy is
it doesn't
like,
add another layer of it to me.
I'll tell you this though, compared to other players, I put those guys all in a category where it's like, if I hear anything in August, anything, calf strain, whatever, I'm out. Odell Beckham Jr., if he misses one practice, I'm out, right? Like Michael Thomas, if anything, right? So with those guys that if they're actually hurt or there's even rumors that they're possibly hurt, I'm out. But if they're healthy, I'm not going to I'm not here, cross it off the bingo, Kev. I'm not going to play Dr. Fortune Teller with healthy players.
Well, add that to the Brandon Huffman, and I almost got a bingo here.
We're getting close, dude. We are
getting close. The doors are off here. You would know about that.
Yeah, I know. My doors have been. Somebody broke into my house and stole every door in the house. So I got this blanket up here. Doors are out of order at this house right here. So.
Some sick joke.
Hate when that happens, right?
Oh my god!
It's like one of those.
True, and yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, it could happen to anybody. Just be careful, okay? So yeah, let's get to running backs.
Yeah, I have a surprise running back that nobody could guess.
Save it for the end. Save it for the end. Yeah,
I'll save it for the end. But I do want to talk about a guy that I didn't think I was going to be on that much, and after thinking about it, and after doing some deep soul searching, my Walden, so to speak, if you're a big Henry David Thoreau guy, like of course I am, because I am a man of culture and civility. Brian Robinson at RB36. Now I like Antonio Gibson too. But let's play the same narrative that we played the last 2-3 years. The Washington Commanders hate Antonio Gibson. And I know, Britt, this might, I guess we're going to be battling today.
We just chose violence with each other today.
We really did. I mean, this is going from the group chat to the stream at this point, after some of the things that were said last night. About a certain guy coming to the Fantasy Football Expo. Anyway, but Brian Robinson, I mean, I'm willing to give him a pass for maybe some of the inefficiency last year because, the guy got shot like last year. The guy, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm probably not feeling right and probably feeling comfortable with getting shot in my leg and then having to go out and play professional football for a season. But all things considered, I think him just coming back and being able to get, a really nice workload, certainly in the middle into the late of the season. I mean, the guy had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games over 20 carries. I mean, he wasn't super efficient with them, but the fact that they were willing to lean on him a little bit more, and I'm almost done playing they hate Antonio Gibson, and just maybe easing off of drafting him. They're both going the same ADP range essentially. So I'm going to take some more shots on Brian Robinson. Why can't he catch a few more passes and, take a little bit more off the plate? I think both running backs are buys right now. If you're trying to, project out this Washington offense, because you're hoping for the year 2 bump with John Dotson. You got Terry McLaurin. If Sam Howell is anything in this offense, and keep in mind 2 years ago he was slated to be like the top quarterback in the NFL draft. So I'm willing to take the shot on Howell. Certainly in best ball, obviously you don't have to draft him in season long, but I think this offense could be sneakily efficient if everything kind of goes to plan. And if you're looking at a running back who could be a sneaky bell cow, if we're trying to project volume here, Brian Robinson's not a bad guy to draft later on.
He got shot, but did he get shot in his hands, Kev? Because he played quite a few games and caught 9 passes. Antonio Gibson caught a bunch of passes.
That's fine.
Maybe not. He caught like 40 something. That's what I worry about. But I will tell you this: when I go through and start doing the math on guys that we think are going to have a similar role to Brian Robinson, it's like when I go through them, it's like, can I get a version of this player for cheaper? Right? Like Jamal Williams. Why does Jamal Williams go so much higher than Brian Robinson? Right? If he's going to be a guy that's an early down back with 2 capable pass catching backs, why does David Montgomery, right? Damian Pierce, Cam Akers, why are these guys going so much higher than Brian Robinson if we project even Isaiah Pacheco? I mean, maybe because the offense is going to be better, but Like these are other like AJ Dillon, Kev. Would you rather have AJ Dillon at RB 33 or would you rather have Brian Robinson at RB? I don't know where he's even going.
He's 36.
So I
But
mean,
I'd
pretty
rather
close.
they're close, but I think I would. It depends on context. It depends on a lot of things, especially if it's tournament or whatnot. But just cost adjusted, I'd probably rather have Brian Robinson because I feel like he has a better chance in drafts to fall down just because of the ambiguity.
And the
Yeah.
thing that we're forgetting to talk about here is that they did bring over Eric Bieniemy, who we saw what he did last year with Isaiah Pacheco and with Jerick McKinnon. So let's just put up that GIF. Why not both? Why can't it be Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson? Kind of like that dual role that they did. Now, obviously, we're not saying that Sam Howell is Patrick Mahomes by any means.
Yeah,
but both running backs will have a role in that offense and that offensive scheme. And they've even said that they want to pass the ball more to Antonio Gibson, that they want to incorporate him more. Last year, he was 12th in targets and he was 9th in yards per route run. Like when this guy catches passes, he's really good. So I think Robinson could be that kind of between the tackles guy, and Antonio Gibson could be the guy who's catching passes in maybe Curtis Samuel's place, you know?
My concern is that this team is going to be garbage and that Sam Howell's not going to be good and Jacoby Brissett's going to continue to just be okay. And this whole thing is set up so that the new ownership group can come in next year and put their stamp on this team by drafting their quarterback. So that's my concern with this team. But the thing is, it's like if the quarterback can get it going, they have a ton of guys. It's not just the running backs. Like we like Terry McLaurin, we like Jahan Johnson. We know what Logan Thomas can do. Curtis Samuel's still there doing whatever he does. So, there's a possibility that this team actually is good if Sam Howell's good. I just think that's such a big if. Like the number of quarterbacks that come from outside the top 2 rounds to actually do anything is brutal, right? It's like when you add them up, it sounds like a lot. Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott. But then you realize that that's like over the last 25 years. And every other quarterback has come from the first or second round except Tom Brady. Sorry, Better Boss. Better Boss speaks up for the misfit wide receivers.
The disenfranchised.
I didn't realize that Curtis Samuel was I know he had Richie James status, Better Boss, where he was untouched, where you can't say this is a safe space for those guys. So I'll add him to the list. I'll add him to the list, Matt. Sorry about that.
Not allowed to speak ill. He's like Voldemort.
That's right. Well, you can speak ill. You can actually speak ill of Voldemort. You just can't.
Say his name.
Yeah. So if I want to talk trash about Curtis Samuel
Just
from now
don't
on, I'll
say his
say
name.
he who must not be named is only good when he gets a couple carries. So anyway, Britt, who's your running back? Or yours is Antonio Gibson?
Yeah, mine was Gibson. And
Yeah.
I think that to kind of cap off what I already said about him, I think that he has more of a role in this offense if they are bad, because they are going to need to pass the ball to keep up. They're not going to just run the clock and be able to control time of possession like every good team out there can. And that's why I think Gibson is the better out of these two, especially since they're going like right next to each other in ADP. I would rather take the guy with pass catching upside than I would the guy with bricks for hands.
Yeah, and when you're looking
No shade,
at
but
when you're looking at, you don't have J.D. McKissick anymore either. He had a neck injury and he might not play another down of football again. So that kind of it clarifies the running back group at least a little bit, because we always had, we had Brian Robinson as kind of the wild card last year. We had Antonio Gibson, who we thought, could be ticketed for more role, but J.D. McKissick was always hanging around, and at least he could pass block. Antonio Gibson hasn't pass blocked in his entire career and in college.
Right. And Kev, you made the point earlier that like he's found his way into the doghouse over and over again, even with different coaches kind of here. And it's just not a good, like anytime there's smoke like that, there's often fire. Like we saw it on Hard Knocks with DeAndre Swift, where the coaches are just like, we got to do something to help this guy like get confidence and get his attitude changed. And then eventually they traded him. Right. Like sometimes a guy's just not a good fit. Like, and apparently if you're Sean Payton, then nobody's a good fit. Even the kicker just gets cut for, parking the wrong spot or whatever he did. So, you have to be careful with a guy like Gibson, where you hear them talking about bringing Kareem Hunt in, and that could ruin the whole thing if they go and do something like that. Before I get to mine, Better Boss offering an interesting question here, and be careful how you answer this, because I know Better Boss is a Taylor Heineke fan, and he will throw a bet at you depending on how you answer. So, Britt, you personally, Sam Howell or Desmond Ridder? who has a better season this year, you think?
I think it's going to be Desmond Ritter. I liked Ritter coming out of college. I thought that he was going to go higher and that he possibly could have gone higher. That's not to say that Howell is bad, but Ritter, I think, has a higher rushing ceiling. I know that Howell can run too. It's going to be kind of like, do you want stale bread or moldy crackers? But
why does everyone says that Sam Howell can run, but he ran legit like a 5 flat 40. Like he ran like the same 40 as like Jack Doyle. Like just being a big clunky dude that falls over for a couple touchdowns from the 1 yard line at UNC, like that doesn't make you a good rushing quarterback. This guy is slow as molasses.
Expired.
I just don't see how that's going to work in this league. Like that works when you're going against teams that have, this is the permanent all-star game. Everyone's fast. You're the only dude on the field running a 5 flat. Like some of these linemen run like 4.8, 4.9.
Yeah. And I will say as well that, Hal does have Jacoby Brissett behind him, and that if he doesn't perform, then he'll get pulled. Ritter doesn't really have anybody behind him. So just de facto, that might make Ritter better.
And Ritter, don't say that.
I was just going to say,
he's
that's
a big
why
Taylor Hines. That was another,
I
he's on the
know.
list of players that cannot be besmirched, Britt. But yeah, I mean,
can we get a doc of this?
yeah, I'll get a spreadsheet going. It's going to be long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Ritter also, it's just an easier setup for him. Like they went back, signed all their offensive linemen back, like McGreary and those guys. They brought in Johnny Smith. They signed the fullback Keith Smith. They obviously have the big, tall weapons. They even brought in Matt Collins for that's worth to stretch the field. Like they drafted Bijan Robinson. They couldn't have made it any easier on Desmond Ritter. That's the difference for me. Sam Howell could look worse with his back against the wall on a team that's going to be, going up against the Eagles and Cowboys and Giants. I mean, it's a worse setup across the board. If you swap the players, I might actually like Sam Howell, right? Because it would just be easier path to being good, to being relevant.
True.
So with mine, I'm going back to ambiguous team, the same team I picked for wide receiver. And I'm only going with this player because I've been told that I can't tout Ty Montgomery anymore. Howard Bender doesn't want to hear it. Ty Montgomery also on Underdog and a lot of platforms is not running back eligible. We've been petitioning Yahoo to get it switched. I don't know if it's been changed yet, but as of right now, he's technically a wide receiver on a lot of platforms. So I'll go with a different running back, Devin Singletary, RB 49. So we're talking technically RB5 range, but more like RB4 where I'm drafted him. ADP 154. And the reason behind this is that I look at Dameon Pierce. He's a very good early down runner, much like the guy we just talked about, Robinson, right? Brian Robinson. The problem is he's not good at pass blocking. And these guys take notice of that. Pro Football Focus graded him out at running back 124. For those keeping track at home, only 32 teams in this league. So if you're 124, that means that most teams have multiple backs that are better at pass blocking than you. And this team just went out and signed one. They signed Devin Singletary, who ran the 6th most routes of any running back in the league last year. And I've had people come to me and say, oh, who cares about Pro Football Focus grades? Well, new offensive coordinator for the 49ers, Bobby Slowick, he worked for Pro Football Focus for 3 years. So I'm sure he cares at least a little bit about what those people think over there. I'm sure he's using all those resources. I can guarantee you they're signed up for a very elite membership that even I don't have access to, and they care about that information. So for me, when you say a situation where we have a guy that isn't good at one aspect of the game, and you bring in another guy who is very good at that aspect of the game, the most reasonable outcome is that they plan to use each guy at what they're best at. And when you're the Houston Texans and Vegas thinks you're going to win 5 games in a 17-game season, that doesn't really it's not conducive to a lot of running of the football. Running is the luxury of the winning team a lot of times. So Devin Singletary to me is a guy that I think is going to find his way onto the field often, especially when they're losing these games. So give me Devin Singletary at his ADP, especially in like if I'm doing like a 0 RB or hero RB build. I think that's a guy I can get in my lineup and feel okay about it. Right? He could be like a James White type guy where he's not getting a ton of carries, but he's getting some receptions. I don't know. What do you guys think? Dameon Pierce, and the thing is, I can have that take without saying that Dameon Pierce is a bad runner, because people come to me and they're like, oh, but Dameon Pierce is good. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm saying he's not good at pass blocking. right? Which
Right.
who cares? That's the most important part of this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I have Singletary on a lot of my teams. I really liked him last year. And while we thought that James Cook was going to get all of those targets, it was Singletary. He was the guy who got them. And I think that kind of moving to a little bit more of a committee approach in Houston works in his favor. Last year, Pierce got all the carries because who else do they have? Rex Burkhead. They weren't going to give him any carries. You know, it was out of necessity that Pierce had to get everything and be on the field all the time. And I think now that they have a competent back behind him, that it's going to be a little more split than people think. So, yeah, I really like Singletary, especially in PPR formats.
Yeah, and Coop mentioned the zero RB, where I clearly have to feel like I have to chime in here. Singletary is like the perfect guy to take as like your RB2. Like if you take an elite running back and you wait and draft wide receivers in that draft range, maybe you draft the tight end, draft the quarterback. Singletary is like the perfect RB2 where you can get at least fill out the RB2 with consistent production. And he's like your baseline, where if you draft a bunch of, Tank Bigsby's and Roschon Johnson's, maybe the wild cards of running backs, you at least have a baseline for Singletary where he's going to be out there, he's going to be scoring points. Maybe it's not, maybe he doesn't have the spike week potential, but there's a pretty good price, at RB49 for consistent production. So
Kev, let me interrupt you real quick. Do you like Tank Bigsby?
I'm fine with playing the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield out of Bigsby cost adjusted. I'm very in tune with price sensitivity, where if I don't get a shot at ETN, I'm totally fine with playing that offense through Bigsby.
Okay, because I've looked at him a little bit, but I haven't really. Every time I look at him when I'm drafting, I'm just not really in a position to draft another running back. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that as the late RB guy of the crew. So Tank Bigsby, a little consideration. Do you think he'll play like pass downs, or what do you think his role might be?
I think he's got I mean, we saw Jermichael Hasty get a lot of run in this offense. I don't think he's going to be quite there to that capacity. He's still around, but Bigsby, I think, is one of the guys that if something happens to ETN, he's a guy that can be one of the biggest contingent value plays of anybody in that range. Any of those rookie running backs. I mean, they're not going to be the rookie running back class of last year, where they were all going in the same 12th, 13th round range with, Rashad White, Tyler Algier, guys like that. This isn't that year where you can just take two of a group of 5 or 6. But, you look at those guys going in that same range, then maybe a little bit later with Roschon Johnson, Tank Bigsby, Chase Brown, maybe. I certainly like that crew and like taking Bigsby because we know that's an ascending offense in Jacksonville. So there's going to be a lot of efficiency. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to score. If Travis Etienne is going to be either managed or gets hurt, it's going to be a full blow committee, and that's something Bigsby can certainly take advantage of. So definitely in with that contingent play.
And he did well. I was going to say he did well on an offense in Auburn that really struggled.
It was
and now
basically
he's on
him.
Yeah, and now he's on a much better offense. I mean, I think there's no reason that he can't really produce here.
Kev, you said you had a sleeper surprise running back for us. What do you got?
I don't know if I want to put it on these airwaves because I don't want this coming back to me. I don't want to be like that guy.
Get it out there, dude.
Are you guys ready? It's Leonard Fournette.
Ooh.
I didn't look. Leonard Fournette's going to get signed by somebody. Like these running backs that don't have a team right now, Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, they are not it's not going to be where it's August and all 4 of them don't have a team. Like 3 of these guys at minimum are going to get signed. Leonard Fournette, I would say, is probably the odds-on favorite after Dalvin Cook to get signed the quickest. And wherever he goes, he's going to go up at least, 4, 5 rounds at minimum. The 2 things that Leonard Fournette can do: catch passes and get in the end zone, get goal line carries because he is bigger. Those are 2 things that you want out of a late round running back. I mean, Leonard Fournette might not be the most nimble of foot. I mean, he's not exactly David Montgomery liquid concrete, but he's on the precipice there. But I am totally fine taking a guy that can stumble his way into 150 to 175 carries. In where's he going right now? He's going. I'm gonna have to look it up. RB at least like 60 something. So it doesn't matter. I mean, he's going to get drafted if he has a team. If it's still August and for some reason he doesn't have a team, then I'm going to worry a little bit. But I mean, the guy's going to get signed. Someone's going to get hurt. It always happens with running backs. It stinks to see. We hope it doesn't affect your team or anybody that you've drafted out there. But Fournette's like a free square at this point.
I just worry a little bit about with him in particular, like. In this league, the guys that play a long time are often guys that are like good locker room guys and good character guys. And this is the guy that we've seen, like flip off fans, get in a fight versus the Bills and get kicked out of the game. We've seen him in college. That was a Garrett Blunt. He had so many speeding tickets and tint tickets that they actually towed his car for not paying them. You know what I mean? Like this guy, as Tom Coughlin, was pulling his hair out over with this guy because when he benched him and then he actually sat on the bench during the game, which is a double no. Like if you're benched,
Tom Coughlin's senile.
Tom Coughlin is a legendary coach. So
from upstate New York, by the way.
And people change, of course, but at a certain point, if that's the kind of guy you're going to be, and they're picking between different guys, you might not pick that guy. That's the only thing with him. But if he does end up somewhere, especially if he ends up somewhere like the Chargers, where he's going to be playing on first downs or whatever, or the Dolphins, then yeah, I'm in. But I just worry that people might there might be enough with this guy where the coaches around the league are just like, nah, you know what? Like we'll sign Dalvin or we'll sign somebody else. Dalvin's got his own problems, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing, it kind of goes back to like what you were saying earlier. If you're doing a regular redraft league and where he's going right now, he's probably going to remain on waivers. So you have the chance of spending a bunch of fab and scooping him up if he's not signed in August. You have that luxury of waiting. And in best ball, he is kind of a free square because once you get down that far, those are all dart throws anyway. So I don't think that it's necessarily wrong to be looking at Fournette, but it does kind of give me the creeps a little bit to put some risk on somebody who's not signed with a team at the very moment that I draft them.
Right. And the big thing about that, I mean, it would worry me if, Dalvin Cook got signed like immediately. He hasn't. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't gotten signed. Kareem Hunt hasn't gotten signed. So it's like a systemic thing with these running backs. And that's like been one of the biggest narratives of the entire NFL in this offseason, the whole devaluation of the running back thing. But the fact that none of them have really gotten signed yet, it doesn't really indict one of them. As far like Leonard Fournette, like I don't know where I can see that as being a negative. Like I'm looking at the ADP range for like these running backs. Like which one doesn't look like the other? Ty Chandler, Leonard Fournette, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Dwayne McBride. Is he like? If I'm needing a running back in any of that range, Pierre Strong's in there. And I get the merits on not being able to talk about time at Montgomery and having to pivot to a guy like Pierre Strong. But God, he just sticks out like a sore thumb to me where. If he gets signed, he's going up 4 or 5 rounds in best ball. If he gets signed just on name value, he's a legacy pick in any season long draft because people know who Leonard Fournette is. Nobody knows who Izzy Abanikanda is.
I'm doing it. Like I'm still taking these guys, but I've done it so many times, man. And I just asked myself, like with Dalvin Cook, I asked myself, well, how many players have been cut, like just flat out released and then come back and been good? Besides like LeGarrette Blunt being cut by the Steelers and scoring 18 touchdowns with the Patriots, but that was over smoking weed.
Leonard Fournette already did it once, didn't he?
But I don't think he got cut. He was released. But actually no, he did get cut, by the Jags. But at his age, how many times have we done this where it's like you go through the list and we're like, I'll take Le'Veon Bell and I'll take LaShawn McCoy and I'll take Lamar Miller and I'll take Devonta Freeman and I'll take all these guys and then they'll sign somewhere, right? Like, I mean, there was hope for Devonta Freeman and all these guys. And then when they do, we're just like, oh yeah, well, that's why they were released by teams that are competing to win right now. So that's my concern there. But at ADP, I'll throw it out there on all of these guys.
Yeah. It's not as though he's going in looking at he's going in the Tyler, RB 40s with Devin Singletary and Jerome Ford and guys that have hope and have upside. Like I think Fournette has the biggest upside of like any of those guys in that. I mean, it's certainly team dependent, wherever Kareem Hunt goes, because he's back to back in underdog ADP with Fournette. So he just sticks out like a sore thumb to me, especially the fact that he is a free square in best ball, and then in season long, if he gets with the team, he's going to be drafted.
Yeah, especially because he's so much cheaper than Dalvin Cook. That ADP needs to correct it. If that ADP doesn't correct itself, I'll draft Dalvin Cook.
Right. I'm not. I didn't even draft Dalvin Cook anyway, just because if in the fact that if he went to Miami, then I already drafted Jeff Wilson and I already drafted Raheem Mostert. I'd much rather play the backfield through that because we know what that offense is. And I don't think Dalvin Cook would be ticketed for anything more than 200 carries. But yeah, he is a pretty bad pick where he's going. And that really hasn't corrected itself either. Like, what's he at right now? He's at RB 24.
I don't think it's too bad at 24, but I'd like to see him go. I'd like to see him a little bit lower.
If he could go into like maybe even then though, like the late RB 30, like if he's going where like Damian Harris is going, I'm probably
I'll take him way over. I'll take him way over Damian Harris, dude. I have no interest in Damian Harris.
Would you rather have him or Samaje Perine?
That depends. If it's a tournament, then I'd rather have Dalvin Cook because Samaje Perine I think is going to go on the back burner when it matters most.
Okay, him or James Cook.
Oh my God, Dalvin Cook. James Cook, Dalvin Cook, yeah. James Cook he's a split
brother.
He's in a split backfield with a mobile quarterback. It couldn't be a worse situation. Like James Cook.
Where do you think his ADP should settle then?
Where it is right now. I changed my mind. I like it. I like Dalvin Cook. I think I would rather have David Montgomery. I would rather have Rashad White. I'd rather have Isaiah Pacheco probably. I'd rather have maybe James Conner too. So I'd move him back to RB like 28 from 24. I think I'd be okay with that. Would you rather have Javonte Williams or Dalvin Cook?
Javonte, the late season upside.
No, he's injured.
Yeah, I think I would rather have Cook. I can't deal with somebody who's already injured.
Alvin Kamara or Alvin Kamara. What if he just doesn't get like? What if he doesn't miss any games?
Has the NFL ever done anything right? That's really betting against the NFL, and that's I would not put it past the NFL to be like he's time served and go Godspeed Alvin Kamara.
Star Caps incident all over again, where Kevin and Pat Williams just pushed. They legally maneuvered their way to pushing the suspension out like a full year and a half and played the whole time, and then right after that season ended, they were like, we retire before they served any suspension. So. Could happen. We'll see. Anyway, let's get into tight ends. Let's get into the good stuff. What the people really
get into Coop's favorite position.
Yeah. Why don't you lead us off here, Coop?
I'll go first, and I won't say Chigakonkwo because I said him way too much. People already know that I like that player a lot. So I'm going to go deeper down the draft order because now honestly he's going tight end 12, 13, and for me, I got him ranked like 8 or 9. So like he's not even a sleeper for me. Like he's just the tight end I'm drafting. The sleeper, I'll give you another one. A guy, I look at this Patriots offense, right? And if we were going to lay out who we think gets the most targets, I think a lot of us would say Juju. And then second on that team, we don't really know. Is it going to be Tyquan Thornton? Is it going to be Devontae Parker? Is it going to be Mike Gesicki? Could be. Mike Gesicki, Bill Belichick on at least 9 different occasions based on the count by Alex Barth has called Mike Gesicki, and this is before he was on the Patriots, a wide receiver, not a tight end. People would say, what do you think about the tight end, Mike Gesicki? And he would say, nope, he's a wide receiver, not a tight end. So he brings this guy in. Gesicki, as a free agent, he was very frustrated with his usage last year. And as a free agent, he could have gone anywhere. And he decided to come to this team, probably because they told him that he was going to play slot, that he was going to play wide receiver. So I look around this offense and I say, why can't Mike Gesicki be a top 2 target on the team? And here's the thing. We talked about this earlier. I think Juju is going to lead the team in targets. I have to leave room for the possibility that I'm wrong. What if Mike Gesicki leads the team in targets, right? Like, what if the offense runs through this player, that he's playing the Zach Ertz role in the slot and Hunter Henry's playing the Dallas Goedert role as the inline tight end? That's a real possibility. It's viable. So I look at him at tight end 24, And I look around that range, and we're drafting Irv Smith, who we all say is going to be the 4th target on the team at best, maybe 5th behind Mixon. Hayden Hurst is the 5th target on that team. So, like, I look around, like, no chance I'm drafting any of these other guys if Mike Gesicki's sitting there. So, give me him. If week 1 comes around and he's only playing 50, 60% of the snaps and he's not getting 5, 6 targets, then I'll just drop him. Tight end 24, who cares? So, yeah, Mike Gesicki, deep. He's probably the deepest possible guy. There's maybe one guy after him that could be that I could say has a realistic shot at being a top 2 target on the team, but he's the deepest guy where I say I actually do think he is the 2nd target on the team.
And we've seen in the past that the tight end situation in New England has been kind of hit and miss. When they brought in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, and we were like, which one's it going to be? And everybody thought it was going to be Jonnu, and it ended up being Henry. I kind of think that that's that similar situation. I think that they're going to put Henry out there more as the blocker, and Gesicki's going to be getting those targets. They would not have gone after him and paid what they'd paid him if he was only going to be there to be a blocking piece, which we all know that Gesicki can't block anyway. So I think that he does have a legitimate chance. And with a different offensive coordinator, absolutely. Ceiling is sky high. I think the reason that his ADP is so low is because we got burned in Miami drafting him last year when Durham Smythe saw more targets than he did, or somewhere close to that. But that's not going to be the case this year in New England. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, remember here, I'll throw a narrative out here because I don't think we talked about it. Remember Bill O'Brien was at Penn State with Mike Gesicki. So you know what? Little college narrative throwing it out there. Yeah, exactly. So you know what? I'm in on Mike Gesicki. He is like that perfect. If I need a third tight end, I'll draft him. I'm fine with him as my 2nd tight end in best ball. In certainly season long, I don't know if you really need to draft him, but he's like a watch list guy where if he's a week 1 guy, like Coop was saying,
Right.
about some of these other guys or like Josh Downs, if he, ends up running a ton of routes and is well involved in the offense, he's an insta add for the rest of the season. So that offense, I'm not drafting Juju at cost, but I am drafting a ton of Tyquan Thornton. I'm mixing in Devontae Parker because I don't think that he is going to be able to come off the field. Like, I think they just have such a, he's probably got an 80% route share, almost cemented in at this point. But Mike Gesicki can certainly work his way. I mean, last season was it's a pretty lost season, if you ask me. I drafted him in Scott Fishbowl last year, and that was, I thought I got a steal with him at like tight end 16, and not even close to
with Gesicki last year, I was telling everybody he was in the fades article, man. Like, because they had 2 good wide receivers, and like I talked about earlier, they used a fullback. So that once you bring that fullback in, now your pass catching tight end, your slot guy, they're all rotating. They're not full-time guys. That's why he actually played fewer snaps than Durham Smythe last year. That's a big part of it. Is that if I'm Mike Gesicki and I'm that frustrated with my usage to the point where he's talking to Dawson Knox on a live mic about his usage, right? Then I'm making sure where I go next. After getting franchise tagged and having no choice, I'm making sure that I'm going somewhere where I'm going to play, right? I mean, I guess Bill Belichick would be the kind of guy to tell him to play and then not play him. But can you imagine if he doesn't play this year, he needs to fire his agent 100% immediately. So I'm in on it. If DeAndre Hopkins signs there, then they're dust, right? But we're talking about ADP 188 in Underdog, which is a format where you have to draft 2 or 3 tight ends. So in normal leagues, his ADP is going to be even deeper. Like, you don't have to draft this guy. Put him on the watch list, and if he pops week 1, you just got to drop the fab on him.
Yep, absolutely. Britt, what do you got for tight ends?
Well, I don't think it's going to come as any surprise that I am going to stick with Greg Dulcich as my sleeper tight end. The news just keeps rolling in about how much Sean Payton loves him, how much he's going to be used in this offense. And I really am not concerned about the other wide receivers or target competition because I think that Dulcich already has a built-in role. Last season, he played out of the slot like 76% of the time he was on the field. He's not exactly a great blocker. So if he's even on the field, it's going to be to catch passes. And Russell Wilson threw so many deep balls last season that were interceptable and that were actually intercepted that I think that Sean Payton's going to kind of rein him in and corral that, and he's going to rely on underneath routes to the tight end, to the running back. I really think that Dulcich is going to have a huge role in this offense, and Denver is going to massively improve and kind of shock some people.
Yeah, I think the only thing I have to say is
Yes! Oh my God! Look at that hair! Oh my God! Oh my God! It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
and that was the highlight of Nathaniel Hackett's head coaching career.
He's legit. He looks like James Franco playing Weird Al Yankovic in a movie. Like 100%, dude. I will say this. Typically, so I'm personally on Dulcich. I'm out at his ADP, but with Britt's approach, this is what I always say to people, is that I lay out my philosophy on the position, right? Like I say, we're looking for top 2 targets. We're looking for all these things. Dulcich has a lot of those. I personally just don't think he's going to be a top 2 target, but Britt does. Britt, right? You think he's going to get more targets than Cortland Sutton, right? So
yeah, I think Cortland Sutton's dust.
There you go. So if that's what you believe, then I have no problem with that. Like the times I get into arguments with people is when they come to me and they say, I love Gerald Everett. I'm like, okay, who does Gerald Everett get more targets than? Does he get more targets than Mike Williams? Does he get more targets than Keenan Allen? Does he get more targets than Austin Eckler? He needs to get more targets than 2 of those guys. And they say, well, no, he doesn't get more targets than any of them. I think that they're all just going to get a lot of targets. It's like you're betting against yourself. That's the part that I don't like. So Britt, with you, if you had came to me and said, I like Judy and Sutton more than Dulcich, but I still like Dulcich, I would say, well, then you must have Russell Wilson in 150% of your leagues, because that's what it takes. You need 2013 Peyton Manning throwing 55 touchdown passes to actually get that level of, to get at least 2 wide receiver ones in the top 5 tight end. Like that's like the last time we saw it, right? So I have no problem with it if that's what you're betting on, right? So for me, I have it ranked a different way, but I can't argue your beliefs. That's the thing. I can argue the fact of the matter, but if that's what you believe, there you go, right?
Yeah, and my stance on Dulcich is he has a lot of things going for him. I mean, an 11 ADOT for a tight end is awesome for like big play potential, but the fact that now it's Sean Payton and he's bringing in his friends like it's some Oceans insert 14, 15, 16 with Adam Troutman and all these other Saints guys. It stinks like for Greg Dulcich, because we know it's not the regime that drafted him. So I believe there's some ambiguity there. Do we think Greg Dulcich is probably the most talented tight end in that room? Probably, but if Sean Payton doesn't think that, then it doesn't care what we think. So, hopefully he can kind of see the light and, get indoctrinated and maybe put him in a room and spin him around a few times and just kind of hypnotize him to give Greg Dulcich a 20% target share at tight end ahead of Cortland Sutton. And, it can be the Judy and Dulcich show. I mean, that's all it takes. That's all.
And the change in tone from January to where it is now, he was so non-committal on Dulcich, and now he's singing his praises. That to me tells me that he sees something that he likes. So Kev, who's your tight end?
Sam Laporta, Detroit. We know that there's some ambiguity there. That's like the word du jour for 2023 is ambiguity, because it's really going to drive a lot of what we do and what we talk about and where we can get value in fantasy. And Sam Laporta is definitely one of them. I mean, rookie tight ends, I know you're almost behind the 8 ball with those guys. But if you look at it from a team context, Detroit, won't have Jameson Williams for 6 games. I don't think that, we would love DeAndre Hopkins to go to Detroit. I don't think that that's realistic, but anything can happen. So right now, if Sam Laporta can get on the field and really only has to really deal with Brock Wright and James Mitchell, I don't think that
doesn't deal with them at all.
Exactly. Well, from a receiving aspect, certainly.
And Shane Zylstra.
Shane Zylstra is the best pass catcher out of them.
He's the best one in his family, sure.
Easily. Is it Brad Zylstra? Is that his brother?
Brandon Zylstra, by the way, who went to school at Concordia College, which is in Moorhead, Minnesota, 5 minutes away. Little fun fact for nobody that really cares about Brandon Zylstra. Anyway, so I think there's some with this offense that we know is going to be a bit run heavy, but has obviously Amara St. Brown and, Josh Reynolds is still kicking around. There's opportunity for a second pass catcher in that offense, whether it could be Jahmyr Gibbs, another rookie, but it also could be Sam Laporta too, if he gets off to a hot start. So at tight end 20, I mean, it's basically, he's a dart throw in best ball, but certainly a high upside one. Second round pick, that certainly has to give you some confidence that Detroit went out and, certainly got their looks at this guy and wanting to make him a feature part of the offense, at least right away, because look at the competition he has. So totally fine for Sam Laporta there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I rarely go after rookie tight ends in fantasy, except when conditions are perfect, right? We need them to not only be the best pass catching tight end on the team. People think that that's all you need, but you actually need them to be one of the best pass catchers flat out on the team, because like we talked about earlier, being the fourth starter on the team does nothing for me, right? We need Evan Engram playing in the slot, and then Odell Beckham hurts his knee. That's how you get a top 5 10 in this rookie. Or you should have Kyle Pitts having 1,000 yards. He wasn't top 5, but 1,000 yards. That's awesome, right? So like you need a guy who's just flat out playing wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid could do that for the Bills right away. Sam Laporta could do that. And then the only other guy that I would even consider is Luke Musgrave, Kev, right? Maybe. We don't know how it's going to shake out. I would bet on other guys, but it's possible, right? Like we're not betting on Michael Mayer to have more targets than Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow. So he's out of the equation. But Laporta, I'm willing to bet on, man, especially because he was a broken tackle yak monster at school, right? 23 broken tackles as a senior. In 1 year, he had 23 broken tackles. Luke Musgrave had 2 over the course of his entire college career, right? So, give me Laporta. I'm interested, but obviously we can grab him deep. Britt, you doing any Laporta or no?
Oh, yeah. At his ADP, absolutely. I think that he does have that upside. They're going to work Gibbs out of the slot, but they didn't draft this guy to not use him. And especially with the situation in their wide receiving room, they're going to utilize him a ton.
Yeah. So, guys, everyone listening, thank you for tuning in, hanging out. Right now, our draft guide is available. And it's not just like a draft guide that you like print out and you get at a gas station or you like email it to your dad or whatever. This is a living draft guide. You log in, all my rankings are there for PPR, half PPR, standard, and my dynamic rankings, which anyone familiar with yin yang tight end, I do that for every position. I try to break it down into who does what kind of guy, what kind of upside you're looking at, who's handcuffs, who's not, so that you can draft like you actually know what you're doing rather than just your buddies that print off Fantasy Pros and they go beep, boop, boop, and just pick whoever, and they're just there to drink beers. Like we're there to drink beers and win leagues. So get the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide. It's available right now. I think it's $26.99. You get it and you have it for the entire, everything that comes out, all the content all the way through September. So go get it right now. What are you doing? I mean, what are you even watching this for? It's over. Go get the draft guide right now, and you can have all our information, everything that we're doing. It's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
That's how you win leagues. You monitor and adjust, and you have the best information. And I think this draft guide does both.
Boom,
that's the Matthew Brown. What are you doing? The show's over.
It's over, dude. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Thanks for joining us, guys. For Britt Flinn, for Kevin Tompkins, for Andrew Cooper.